Okay, Alvin, yeah, you can shoot.
Yes.
We're now live.
All right, folks, welcome to another Civic Vice program. Today is Sunday, August the 13th, and we want to welcome you to yet another Civic Vice program, the program that educate, inform Dominicans at home and abroad as to what's taking place in our beautiful nature island of the Caribbean. We want to welcome all of you who have already signed in. Have a seat, grab a drink, and let's have a conversation. This afternoon, we have with us no stranger, the brother Zed Lloyd, one of the patriots that's going to share and join the conversation with us this afternoon. And we also have attorney at law Henry Shillingford that's going to be with us as well this afternoon. We're looking forward to, as always, a very engaging conversation. Our conversation this afternoon, we're going to be still looking at electoral reform. And the question we're going to ask ourselves is that process hijacked? Is the process hijacked? We know and we heard of an upcoming, I'm not even sure if I would call it a government-initiated consultation. It sounds and comes across more as a Labour Party consultation, given who is going to be spearheading the consultation in the person of Dr. Daru, an active Labour Party operative, and all the words that goes with it. He's the one that's going to be undertaking the consultation. So that is why we are at a loss to figure out whether it's a consultation undertaken by the government of Dominica or if it's a consultation undertaken by the Labour Party as an interested party, I would say, in the whole process. So that's what we're going to be having a conversation on this afternoon. I know those of you who have already logged in will be part of that conversation, as always. Sending your comments. We are on our Facebook page. You can find us here, and also on the YouTube page. You can find us here and be part of the conversation. Want to say a pleasant Sunday afternoon to all of those who are celebrating any special occasion, birthdays, anniversaries. We want to say happy anniversary, happy birthday. And also to those who have maybe suffered some loss in their family or friends, we want to extend our condolences on behalf of Civic Vibes. Again, want to say that Civic Vibes, part of our engagement and our responsibility is to educate our Dominicans, whether you're at home and abroad, and to bring to you the information, the facts, and to have that conversation. Lofty, you want to go ahead and come in and give the number that some of our persons could call in and to extend your own words of welcome as we start our conversation.
All right. Yes, Alvin, I want to say a special good afternoon to you, a special good afternoon to all who's listening and viewing at this time. It's a pleasure to have you guys on board. We have two formidable brothers, two erudite brothers in the house with us this afternoon as our special invited guests, activists, Brother Zed Lloyd. Zed Lloyd is always, someone that you love to listen to. He's a no-nonsense person in terms of his words when it comes to Dominica. And so we expect nothing less of Brother Zed Lloyd this afternoon in tonight's program. Also, as well, we have a legal mind among us. We always like to hear from our lawyers, and that is none other than Brother Henry Shillingford, a very patriotic brother that had always not just doing the talking, but prepared to do the standing as well for country. And so these two gentlemen, along with your comments, your calls, we will have a very, very interesting program here this evening. So all of you here, we are thanking you very, very much for your viewing. We just ask now that you share the live, make someone know that the Civic Vibes program is on. We are a little late, but technology is sometimes, but we will make up at the end of the program. All right, so please share the live at this time. Let someone know that we are on in this time. Alvin, you want to touch base with our guests right now so that they can give the opening remarks?
Absolutely, absolutely, Lofty. We have logged in with us already, Dory Drago. He says, good evening, brothers. Lofty Duran Alvin. Good evening, my fellow patriots locked in North Carolina, USA. We also have Avondale Baptist, who says, we follow what is being said here. The people are the ones to be blamed. It is leadership, 23 years of this foolishness. So he's locked in with us, Avondale Baptist. Ziska Sira is also logged in already. Caroline Campbellin is locked in. Dave Bertrand, regular. Sorry to be late. Good night, everyone. He's in there with us. Dana Filbert Peterson is locked in. Fifth Sunshine is locked in. Patricia Zamo. Who else we got? Lofty, who else can you see on the feed already?
All right. Lots of persons there. Caroline Olivachi Bruni is here. Stephanie John Baptist. Amali Yostri, Brother Dave Bertrand. And we have a whole ton of folks already here with us indeed. All right. So we want to thank them for tuning in. Let's go to ask Brother Zed Lloyd to have his opening remarks as it were. Brother Zed Lloyd, pleasant good afternoon to you, sir.
Well, good afternoon, Lofty. Good afternoon, Brother Alvin. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, Brother Scribs, Henry Shillingford, friend, ancient friend. It's nice to be here. It's nice to be here, especially at these times where country is so prominent and so necessary to be entertained and discussed and see we can see solutions to problems. So I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I think I'm going to welcome the people listening. We're going to try our best. I'm going to enlighten you and bring some constructive information and a way forward.
Yes, indeed. Zed, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening here. Let me move across now to welcome to this platform for the very first time, Brother Henry Shillingford. Folks, he has a little issue with his video at this time, but trust me, the voice of Brother Shillingford is much more important these days than the face. So don't be afraid. He will deliver. Brother Shillingford, good afternoon to you, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Pretty well.
Audience can pretty well, not excellent. Maybe I should go a little closer. Yeah, these are extremely important times globally. As we have this discussion, quite frankly, Lofty, I have, listened to Dominican politics less and less and the issues because it's so absolutely insane to me that to address my mind logically to it sends me insane. So I address my mind to much more international issues. That's not to say I'm not aware of them. It's just that they are actually insanity in Dominica. But that's true because it's insane in the world. It's just that Dominica is a microcosm of the world. Everything is in your face. Biden is just as bad as Skerritt. He just does everything and people say no and they just do it. It's like that all over the world. And so it's very important for Dominica to see how important they are internationally. Because if you can't do it in a small place like this, it can't be done. And I truly believe that the international forces, the international criminal forces that control Skerritt, are using here Dominica as a test case because it has all the structures as a proper government, but it can't be. You can't run a Whitehall system on 70,000 people in any kind of way. So they've actually demolished it. So it's actually just a skeleton of itself. Like you have a government in power without a democratic government, without any voting. And so as we discuss these issues, you have to understand the real state of deconstruction that the elites are doing in governance all over. Remember, the same process is going in Nigeria now, a place of 160 million or 200 million people where they just stole an election. A guy that they're now finding out to not even be who he says he is, who actually put in a false degree of his graduation from Chicago University. So we're dealing with some real scabs that are running the black world, and it is a white problem. And so that's where I come from. People have to stop thinking of little Dominica. They're connected to the world, and they can have an impact in the world. It's just because they feel they're small and insignificant that they don't have this fire, which is what they need to set an example to the world of how you can overturn this shit, and it's small enough to be overturned. You cannot overturn the United States. Anyway, that's my beginning.
Trust Brother Shillingford, whenever he's here, whenever he opens his mouth, you always have to listen. Folks, there's a thank you very much, Brother Shillingford, for your opening remarks, as it were. We're expecting a very, very good conversation indeed. Folks, yes, the one number to call tonight, that is 245-2396. I'll plug that number in the chat in a while. Remember, the program is streamed via YouTube and as well Facebook. So those of you on YouTube as well, thank you for tuning in each and every time. Zed Lloyd, we want to start even before we go, dive deep center into the whole electoral, whatever it is, issue in Dominica we have been facing for some time, which, by and large, we cannot get it. We cannot yet come to grips to fixing that situation, as Brother Shillingford alluded to a while ago. We have even a more recent issue in our hand where we heard moves by Skerritt and his gang to turn the botanical garden, something that is significant to us as a Dominican or as Dominicans, to turn it into something else or part of it thereof. How would you want to address that situation, Brother Shillingford and Brother Zed, as we get into the conversation, which will dovetail into where we want in just a bit? What are your thoughts, sir?
Well, of the botanical gardens is part of a bigger problem. It's part of a continuum, if you will. And I think maybe sometimes people talk about history, and they say you have to understand history for you to fix certain things. But a lot of times when people think of history, they think of facts, Lofty, just like I know this fact, I know that fact, I know that fact. But very few people actually get the context of the history. So it's like, for instance, apartheid. Well, boy, apartheid finished about 1991. You know what happened, you know what Mandela, you know what. But there's so much context to apartheid that you don't know, because all you have done is accept dates and hard data on apartheid. You understand, my brother? So if all you're doing is looking at data, you're not really going to be able to use the history to create a solution for the future. But if you go back in the history and you take things into context and you understand the context around the hard data, then you can most likely find the solutions that you need in moving forward. And I think the botanical gardens allows us that opportunity to do that. Here we have an institution that is protected by the Constitution through ordinances and the likes, totally protected, which means any sort of thing that has to happen in that institution, it's not saying that the government cannot do what they want, but the people have an access because of the Constitution that it allows them to be able to say, hey, we got to get involved in this. We can challenge this. We can stop this if we want to stop it. So now, that is because we have to know the Constitution. We have to know the law first to be able to do these things. We have to know to go about the law. What has been happening to us in the past, Lofty, for the last 15, 20 years? We have not known the law. We do not know what our rights are. We do not know what steps we should take if we want, let the electoral reform, for instance, whether we should tackle the Electoral Commission, or whether the Electoral Commission is the one that should tackle Byron, or whether it's the electoral reform, because we do not know the laws. We do not know how to operate within the constitutional boundaries. This issue in the gardens gives us a good chance for us to learn and for us to be able to shape our arguments from the past into doing them the right way. How do citizens react? When do we take the government to court? How much time do we have to take the government to court? How do we go about these kinds of things? I think I will let Henry slide in here and take the argument a little further. But that is what I want us, if we can accept this afternoon, for us to see how the law works, how we operate within these confines of the Constitution, and what are our limitations and what are our possibilities.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. Jump right in. Yes, please feel free. Henry, you're mute.
Well, at what point? I think that the point about the historical context of things is very important because, especially, given his last issue, the botanical gardens. Now, the botanical gardens is where I found my foot here in Dominica in public outcry and, in fact, in activism. Because remember, I don't know if many of you all remember, but this goes back to the 90s when Eugenia wanted to put a stadium in the botanical gardens. And well, we at DCA, I was with DCA, myself and Assi was the president, I was program director. We were appalled. In fact, DCA's office was right next to the gardens. But I mean, just to show you how history and how you have to see it in context is that now, whatever it is, 20-something years later, 25 years later, the context in which we operate is so much different. When we came up, when we started to say, no, you can't do this, what, are you crazy? Because we all remembered going to the gardens as children and, it was emotional. But when we said that, well, there was a new group that had not a group, but architects, in fact, I had formed them, the Dominica Society of Architects, immediately came on board with us. And so institutionally, we were able to present a counter plan to the gardens. And we set it up. It was, it grew from thing to thing. So we countered Eugenia's thing, but we had the support. There were people who were professionals, were still interested in Dominica. I mean, many probably left. And so there was a group of people that we could tap into, and we created this fantastic plan called the Botanical Gardens Roseau Link, which led to SHAPE, which was linking our natural heritage of the botanical garden, which our architectural heritage of the bayfront. And we created a road along the river, which linked back to the bayfront, and a road around down by to connect the old boys' school, which is the oldest public building in Dominica still, whereas the Newtown, thing that has not been fixed. Look at that, Newtown Community Center has remained dilapidated since Hurricane, and they're using the yard as a private enterprise to wash cars. This is totally, how can Newtown let that happen? That was the place where Harlem used, the kids used that on the Saturday. I brought my kids there. That's where they changed and everything. The parents don't have that, but they're not complaining. What madness is that? So, your child have to dress in the stands and so on when you had a place. Harlem Football Club, that's where they had their heavy equipment and, they used to work out. Where is our community? What's the bomber clock? I mean, it's ridiculous. It is just ridiculous, and when I'm too excited, I'm just, I'm crazy. Like, we wouldn't watch this happen. Look at the law reform. You will know, Lofty, I told you this. Before I told you, they needed to take the Electoral Commission to court. 15 years ago, it's the same problem. They never took them to court. You know what I mean? Now, you didn't need legal reform. You didn't need electoral reform. You needed electoral enforcement. The law is there. The law doesn't imagine 65,000 people in a population of 65,000. It just has to be enforced. We have to get ignorant. I mean, I'm Rasta. I come from the tradition of ignorance in Dominica, where teenagers took over this place. They were teenagers. The Dreads were like guys between 16 and 25. I mean, and they were upset by massa society. I mean, now it's an international struggle. It's not really that. That won't get anywhere now. It's an international struggle. But we have to link Skerrit and this madness that's happening here. Skerrit can't think of this stuff. Skerrit is a little pawn of some international criminals and Chinese, whatever it is, using him because he is the ultimate whore. He does not say no. Oh, okay. Look at this. You think I'm just, okay, I'm hyperbole. Okay. Now, the citizen by investment exists all over the world, but it's a high-end thing. You know, in the Caribbean, it's for hotels and, you know, and villas and so on. How is it in Dominica you have a CBI program for low income housing? You ever thought about that? How is that? How does that CBI program work? People are paying no rent, right? The land underneath the building, who owns it? You know, I'm sure it's MMC. You know, like they don't, what you heard of WEF, World Economic Forum, right? They said that they want to create a place in how the world, the plebs, the workers are going to own nothing and be happy. Have y'all ever heard of that? Own nothing and be happy. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, who are the people who really run the world. They meet in Davos every year, you know, the world powers, economic, you know, CEOs, etc. That's what do they have in all these housings? They own nothing, but they're happy. They do not have tenure of any kind. They don't have a lease. They don't have a rent by month to month. They don't have ownership, title, anything. My point is I'm making is that where Dominica is serious, Dominica is the natural wonder of the world. These people are really trying to destroy this natural wonder. Look, they're going after the gardens. The gardens, when I did this whole thing on the gardens, I'm an expert on it. The gardens it is the only capital city in the world where a third of it is dominated, right, by a botanical gardens. 41 of Dominica's 143 acres is a botanical garden. No city in the world can boast that. You understand? We have a series. I've presented this at many forums, at the architectural Caribbean Architectural Conference. We had an opportunity to use the gardens to make Roseau the Millennium City. It was how do you build a city based on nature? Yo, it was a brilliant plan. It was all agreed. UWP jumped on it. In fact, we at the 1997 ecotourism meeting that was held in Dominica, right? They even took it, you know, and proposed it but they never followed through because it was more gimmicky for them and not real, right? So all I'm saying is that, given your point about historical context, where we are now is that Dominicans, I don't know how we're going to get it. They have to understand how important they are. They're being used as a little test case, and they're failing. You have to be able to rise. If Dominica rises up in a little place like here, people have to pay attention now with social media. This little place is important. This is the natural wonder of the world. The only nation state that I can just riddle them off to you. Like singular, like you have a boiling lake. Brazil with all the Amazon don't have one. The United States don't have one. In this little place, we have the only place people left. We have, listen to this news, if your audience don't know. We're the only places, and believe me, well, you should agree, that the world is based on transatlantic slavery. Capitalism is based on transatlantic slavery. There was no capitalism before slavery, right? Read Eric Williams, Capitalism and Slavery, right? Now, Dominica is the only place in transatlantic slavery where you have free Africans coming here before colonialists. And you have them coming here for 80 years. Remember, Dominica had less than 100 years of colonialism, of slavery. Dominica they broke the treaty, the English broke the treaty in 1763. By 1834, there was no thing. But there were 300 Maoris here already. We had 300 Maoris here. We're from a Maor tradition. We're different than any other Caribbean island. We're really an important place. And if we don't understand how important this place is, we won't get the people to understand, but they have to understand it's important within the international context. Stop thinking Dominica is a bubble. You're important because you're international, global importance. You're like singular, the only place with the last remaining people of the Caribbean, the only place with the largest Amazonian parrot, the only place with the largest boiling lake in this little place. So, I mean, I speak like that to let people, I can speak calmly and, placidly and so on. And, but People have to be excited about life. They have to see, why was I born here? Why am I here? What am I doing? And people don't have that, but it's a problem all over the world. But as I'm saying, my despondency comes from, if we can, I came back here because I thought I could do it. They beat me down for 30 years. I don't know anymore. Where do we get this spirit? Look at my class, my class, the bourgeois. They own the land. How is Skerritt playing more massa than them? I don't get it. Anyway, I'm taking up your program too much. But connecting that history, as you were talking about, Zed, that history that goes back, that was literally an issue, and we proposed something else. And they just, let it go. And then, UWP came in, and then Labor came in, and, by the time, ASSI was in, we were getting ready maybe to push it. It was the Millennium City. ASSI now quits because of, the him and Ruzi's difference. And then Ruzi dies, and then the whole shit shifts.
No.
Hello?
Zed,
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing you. We are hearing you, Henry. But then Zed, your signal is very low at this time. So try and fix that up, Zed, and let me have Alvin jump in for his initial thoughts.
Yes, Lofty. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I think both Zed and Henry have pretty much zeroed in on why we are where we are today. I think Zed in particular made a very interesting comment when he sort of indicated that it's not just a matter of knowing the history from a point of view of dates and data, but knowing it within a context, having an understanding as to why what is, how did we get there? So it is not just to know, well, in 1834, slavery was abolished, or in 19, whatever it is, we obtain, certain privileges. And I think that is very important. And he made the mention of the fact that few of us understands our Constitution. I have on this program several times makes reference to the Constitution. It says we the people. It's the people's Bible. It's the people's document. But how many of us understand clearly when that right of ours is taken away from us under the Constitution? And what redress do we have? So I think Zed was right on point. And I agree with Henry as well in terms of the enforcement of the law. And that is so important because Lofty, somebody in Dominica at the highest office in the land in Dominica, maybe you can tell me who that person is, said at some point, no law or constitution will prevent them from doing whatever they do. I don't know if it's you who said that, Lofty, or Henry or Zed who made that comment, but that comment was made. And we brush over it. And what we have seen today now is a manifestation of that statement, that no law, no constitution will prevent me from doing what I have to do. And it's really sad where we are. And I think Henry again alluded to it, that back in the time when a similar attempt was being made to make some sort of modification to the Botanical Garden, folks stood up, folks took a position. Are we able to say the same thing today? Not just on the Botanical Garden, but I'm sure on the matter that we're going to have a conversation on as it relates to electoral reform. Are folks going to say, well, hey, I'm going to take a stand? And I think it was John F. Kennedy who said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think it goes back to each and every one of us. What is it that each and every one of us individually and collectively can do for our country? And to what extent will we allow situations like what is now arising out of the Botanical Garden? And I think we have to move more into the direction of looking out for each other and defending what is wrong. Take away all this partisan thing, whether I belong to this party and that party and that. Let's look at it and how, to what extent each one of us can play our part to protect and safeguard the botanical garden, to ensure that laws are conformed and the enforcement of laws, to ensure that we understand when our rights under the Constitution is trampled upon and what redress we have. As Henry said, there are certain matters I've said repeatedly that we should challenge in the courts. But we either one timid, we either one not knowledgeable. We have, and forgive me, Henry, you are there, you are an attorney, but we have what? We have almost 100 attorneys on the island. And how many of them are prepared to come forward and to help educate the people and to assist in challenging those matters in the courts? So I think that's where we are. But like I've always said on previous programs, I'm a man of hope, and I'm a man of hope, hoping that change will come around and that it will come around pretty soon.
But Alvin, Lofty, can I come in?
Yes, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Alvin, it's more than hope. I'm glad you stopped. You arrived where you arrived at. It's more than hope. You see, in the case of the garden, we have actual steps that can be taken to address the garden. It's not a hope. We have the Protection Act for the parks, for the trail, for the national. There is statutory board value in the Constitution that allows us to address what is happening in the garden. Not complain about it, not talk about it, actually address it. And we have two options. We have an option of a legal option, or we have an option of citizen option. And both of them are valid and can ensure that we get involved in addressing the situation in the garden. And I use that to go back to the historical now in terms of the electoral reform. So here in the garden, we're not going to make the mistakes that we did with electoral reform. Here in the garden, we're going to look at the law, we're going to look at what our options are, and we're going to act. In electoral reform, we never looked at the law, we didn't look at our options, and we just kept talking. We haven't acted. You see? So if we look back at the history contextually, what did we not do? We did not address the Electoral Commission when we were supposed to address them. They are the statutory body that is enshrined to take care of work. We did not force them to do the work by addressing them in court so that they in turn can deal with the government in court. So that was a mistake. We did not, when Byron came and got signed, the electoral reform was supposed to address, the Electoral Commission was supposed to address that wrong, with Byron, not we. The Electoral Commission is representing us within the Constitution on in matters of election. So by they not acting, Byron got away. Now the thing about law is, when you start allowing things to happen, what you do is you create precedents. It becomes harder to stop. So here we are today now, dealing with Byron because we didn't address all these things. And we have no choice but to deal with Byron because it's almost too late to stop Byron. So you understand? We approached electoral reform as a political process of a political party instead of a civic process of citizens of Dominica. And that was our mistake. I heard Lofty yesterday talking about this party and that party and everything. The reason why we are where we are on electoral reform is because the citizens did not embrace their mission and their duty of addressing electoral reform, not a political party. The fact that it became an issue for a political party was the biggest mistake. The biggest mistake, because they're a party in, you see, so it's almost like a conflict of interest. We're looking at this from the same thing like the Labour Party. It is the citizens and independent body that is supposed to address electoral reform. So one of the reasons why we continue it is because a political party became the premise. The other political parties, they became more cantankerous. The citizens became more divided because they're thinking of political parties instead of electoral reform. We did all the wrong things. All the wrong things. So like I said, where we are right now, Lofty, the only option that's left to us is the citizens, because why? We wasted all the legal options. We did not use them when we were supposed to use them.
Yeah, Zed, based on your last comments, I'm seeing already that the live feed is warming up nicely to those comments of yours, whereby you're saying that the mistake that we made with that whole electoral reform process is that the citizenry by and large should have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that the right thing happened, other than leaving it up to the political parties so that they can chatter away for us. So right about now, we are where we are in that quagmire, as it were, because of, as we say in local palace, we put the cart before the horse. So you are spot on. You're spot on.
If the citizens can, yeah, go ahead. Good.
Yeah, well, again, you see, the way that people look at it like that, but remember, the citizens just want to watch their children and watch the game on Saturday. The children, citizens, like you watch all these refugees, people just want to take care of their families, and these overarching forces come into them. Now, what you're supposed to have protection from that is governance. Now, and governance is not just like the political parties. Like what you're talking about is that why didn't the lawyers stand up? This is something that is pretty clear to me. I mean, I said I just didn't have the wherewithal, but I spoke about it at a number of occasions. And that's why I related to the botanical gardens thing. Institutionally, like a society is made up of groups of people who are interested in the society. People have to be interested in where they're from. And that was my point about love of space. You have to be grounded here. There has to be something that gives you a fire. That's what gives me my fire to be in Dominica. And I think it's an important fire. I don't think enough people have that. And so, Alvin, just getting back to you, that was my greater point. I think that we'll be, whether it's the the law reform, and as I said, that was, right now, I mean, it still may be late. I mean, it's certainly late, but the only action is against the Electoral Commission for allowing this at all. They have no rights to do that. I mean, he had no rights to do it. The prime minister, whatever his name is, and the leader of the government sitting has no right to do that. And certainly a judge taking on, or any legal luminary taking on something like this is the problem. We have been sold out by our leaders because this is how this system is really set up. People aren't supposed to be doing this every day. That's why they hire you and they take their tax dollars and pay you. It's really appalling that all our leaders, right? And leaders are also church people and lawyers and so on, who get part of their recompense is because they represent the society and they represent the pillars of the society. That's what's coming apart here, gentlemen, and it's global. What's happening in Dominica is because everything's so much smaller and in your face, it's crumbling in front of people like, who are world knowledgeable pretty quickly and in front of our face. And it really needs the businessmen and the real Dominicans to come to, because I'm telling you, I'm in the court system. And, things are, we really have to understand the kind of, for example, why I say I don't, and although I'm dealing with something on this, I wrote 2 articles in the newspaper, which got front page cover, but nobody gave me a response. Like, they are building an airport and moving earth, and they haven't signed one paper or permission or shown any drawings. You know how amazing that is? They were just joking on my boy that, what's her name, going back to the park, has designs and so on. I see that's running around the internet for what's going to happen at the garden. But can you imagine how appalling that is? When you dig a hole to build your house or something, planning is there. How, to me, in terms of, that's such an incredulous disrespect of the law. and buying property. So there's a collusion of high civil servants. Skerritt couldn't be doing this without the financial secretary and other high civil servants. I'm telling you, the system is really set up to prevent that. So what you have here, and that's what I'm saying, it seems they're doing that all over the world and citizenry, but it's not the rank and file. It's the middle class, the intellectual thing have to understand. And I'm saying you have to act local, but think global. This is an anti-Black international movement, even if they have Black henchmen doing it. But it's a Black, anti-Black. You have to see it. They make a big thing about this Alabama thing, but they just policemen had just the day before in Mississippi actually just kidnapped 2 guys and brutally murdered them. I mean, that's an everyday occurrence, yet white boys fighting Black guys on a thing I'm just showing, not to go too different, but in Dominica, people are connected globally. For people to understand where they are, see, people in Dominica are confused. That they're really confused because they're simple people. It's the middle class intellectuals that really have to put aside all political differences. I mean, this society is brinking, and you all feel it, and we're talking around it, but we know it. And this airport thing is an extreme example, and it shows the people too, because the people did not complain. Nobody's complaining in Wesley. There's no fundamental, like, what's going on. In the Carib territory, they're building a road for the last 3 years. People have dust all the time. Gada Khan has made hundreds of millions of dollars, all of these deals. And I mean, it has just been, and we've, I don't want to say anything, but I have tried to ring that this is ridiculous. Like, you got to go on the street and get in these guys' face. What the? But nobody's angry. And I'm too angry, I guess. And that has been my, I'm failing. And I came on the program. I didn't really want it because it's really emotional for me. It's been really, hard. And I just don't get how people don't see how special here is. And, and see it as an example in the world and not just some other place or some backward place, which is I'm telling you, is the preeminent. I ride the buses. I don't have a car. I'm on the ground. People feel small of themselves here in Dominica. They don't feel important at all. They have no sense of self-worth because they don't been told really to be proud. Yes, they know their nature and their natural, but what is that? So what? That doesn't mean anything. And you have to give that value. And what we're talking about is like we're getting near the edge. Look, they're going right in the gardens, like they're going even more in your face, right in your gardens. That's how they do it, right? Without even a suggestion, like Eugenia had said, had put it out there as a suggestion, to develop the garden. So it wasn't some sneaky thing like that with plans, because they used to hold cricket in the gardens, and the garden was a very popular place to play cricket. So it was much more, and that even. So now we have 25 years again, and we have all I can say, the point is to have a reproposal, because I myself feel the gardens is very underused. I mean, right, kind of activity. Anyway, yes.
Yes, thanks for that point. Thanks for those salient points, Henry. We have someone on the line. Let's see if we can facilitate that caller. Caller, good evening. Welcome to the Civic Best program. You're on. Go right on.
Hi, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. You sound like a very young person. Thank you for calling.
Yes, I am, in fact. I have been listening to and following to everything you all have been saying. Is not now on the couple of years, which kind of widened mine. I heard the young man. I'm not sure as to your name. I'm sorry. You spoke in regard saying that it's a citizen. No, I'm a young person, right? I'm in my late 20s, I should say. No, I didn't know anything in regards to politics. I didn't know anything about electoral reform until it was brought to me under the belonging people. Because for me, where I understood what it was, no, I am not against the electoral reform. I'm a young person. What needs to be done other than the electoral reform? Yes, indeed, I'm not going to say no. But how are things going to be put in place in order to ensure that the electoral reform that we get, and when it comes to the voting, that it is not going to be rigged again? Because at the end of the day, electoral reform, then if I'm wrong, you would tell me that I'm wrong, right? Electoral reform is still the government or whoever from that has to provide that what the citizens is asking for. So they are the ones who are to be creating the same tools, the same this, the same that to accommodate the election. So how are we going to ensure that it is not rigged? Because even if you give the ID card, the first ID card, right? You can print out ID cards for anybody else on any random day. And even if you go back to check the system again, because I'm a young person, I'm telling you, you can read it. He's going to it because at the end of the day, that is how it is in the system. So how are things in a country that is not so fast like Dominica? How are we supposed to that firstly? And secondly, you stress on the citizens are the ones allowing it. I don't believe the citizens are allowing it because I'm being honest with you. I didn't know anything about election. I am learning and I am following you where I'm understanding what election is, what is politics, why politics is needed. Majority of the youth, we are living our life, not knowing, not caring about these things, because at the end of the day, that is how we were raised. We go to school, we do a little social studies, and that is where it ends for us. We don't know what politics really is. Why? And it's only as we grow up, we are working, politics start to come in play to us where we understand. But you know, like, I need that.
I want to answer her.
It affects me getting a salary. It affects me getting somewhere in life. No, I believe that we should encourage people and teach them what politics is and to widen their brain so that they can understand in order for the citizens to be more
I want to answer her.
For them to understand, for them to see, because they don't know. All I know is, boy, is a government there, I go and ask them for something, I get that, and they walk out. Is who can give them the most thing. That is what they see government as. But government is something. Okay.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Hold on a while, Zed. Hold on a while. Thank you very much, caller. You being a young person, you identified yourself as that. We appreciate that call. We appreciate your intervention very much. Please spread the word to other young persons and tell them that, you know, that program is on each and every Sunday, and they too can be part and parcel of the conversation and learn something, just as you alluded to a while ago. So thank you very much for your call.
Let me just add Lofty quickly. I really want to congratulate this caller. Yes. Not pass that very lightly. We need to congratulate this caller. That is the kind of engagement we need. And whoever and wherever you are, caller, congratulations. You have raised some very pertinent issues that I'm sure not just you, many other young persons like yourself may be thinking, but just haven't come forward yet. So that gives me a certain level of hope again, Zed, that we have young persons out there who are asking those questions, and hopefully we can take action on some of the areas that she has raised.
Yo, let me nail it. Lofty, I can go?
Sure.
Yeah, let me nail it, man. Young lady, thank you very much for opening the window to where we really want to go and where we go in. You see, Lofty, in the dictionary, electoral reform says change of laws. But you see, again, the historical. Lofty, we come from a colonized concept, a non-nationalist concept, a given country concept, and we became independent. But we became independent without an independent heritage. So, which means although we are independent in name, we have to develop an independent heritage. And so developing an independent heritage, which enables us to be independent, takes us to a place where we become nationalistic. And you see, electoral reform now for us is not just about the change of laws. It's the process that enables us to start thinking about the constitution that we were given and how we can take that constitution and shape it into the one that we need for ourselves, for our own independence, our own economics, our own political process. And if, when we do that collectively as a nation, the citizens move from this quasi-political process of colors and color bands and all those things. They become nationals. That is why I tell you, we have to have a civic organization running the electoral reform, because that was our opportunity to become nationalistic, to become what the sister is talking about, conscientious citizens who know their constitution, who know their rights, like Barbados and all those places, and politicians can't mess with them again. So when you arrive at that state of nationalism, and these red and these blues don't take precedence over the yellow and the green and the black and all the white and the thing that we follow in our flag. It is then, it is there, it is then you become an independent nation, because you have established a nation, a national consciousness that is nationalistic. And that is why a political party cannot lead us in this context. And we're too late. But I want to emphasize that, because you see what she's saying there, that is why that happened. That happened because the information was not felt accessible, because it was distributed in a polarized construct.
No.
In a polarized construct. And that is what has bothered us and kept us from arriving there.
If I may, that was excellent. That
give thanks.
That was really the passion of what you're talking about, is the excitement that we really need, and what was really exceptional about the young lady is that she admitted, and that's what happens to people. And Lofty, that's what this program maybe you should focus on. And I was just listening to her, recollecting, and even what you're talking about, Zeb. See, these things have to come from someplace. We're a country, like, if I may, can I just read just the first paragraph? But I encourage everybody, instead of not reading the Constitution, the preamble. Now, I just argued, by the way, on a ganja synod this before, about what constitutions are and what's the power of parliament, and reminding, right? People, like the preamble of the Constitution is, why do we exist? Why do we gonna have this country? So it begins, whereas we, the people of Dominica, have affirmed that the Commonwealth of Dominica is founded upon the principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, faith in fundamental human rights and freedoms, the position of the family in a society of free men and free institutions, the dignity of the human person, and the equal inalienable rights with which all members of the human family are endowed by their creator. It goes on. And this is really what deals with the people. Now, that's the individual, but it remembers in a family with free men and free institutions. It goes on. Respect the principles of social justice, and therefore believes that the operation of the economic system should result in so distributing the human and material resources of the community as to subserve the common good, and there should be adequate means of livelihoods for all, that labor should not be exploited or forced by economic necessity to operate in inhumane conditions, that there should be opportunity for advancement on the basis of recognition of merit, ability, and integrity. Now, I mean, remember, constitutions are just pieces of paper that people have written down. Now, what I argued, and what is important for this lady to understand, is that the reason why all the other things in the Constitution that goes on is to achieve these ends. These ends aren't the law, but they're before the law. They're the principles that make up what are you making laws on. So, I mean, so it's and your program, and you're doing that, Lofty, and that's where you should stay being out, is civic knowledge. Like, really, you should be going to the high schools and teaching people what's the civics of being a citizen. The Bar Association should do that, quite frankly. The Bar Association should have that as a program because it's part of the free institutions. They should want the public that understands how this works, right? Do you know the police don't get legal training up at Mont Bruce? You know? So what I'm saying is that I am trying to go back to principles. We've missed principles and we've jumped into the nitty-gritty of it. But remember, things are based on principles. And then, you know, I would remind people that your fundamental freedoms are in section 1, but from section 2 to section 13, there's limitations on it. So, you know, but all of these, remember, this is before section 1, have to meet the fact that we are operating in free men, in free institutions, recognizing the position of the family, you know, and regard for human rights and freedoms. And is that occurring? Is that occurring? Even though this law is passing, now remember this law, because they have all the seats. They have all the seats, so the law will pass. I mean, that's how the system is set up. They set up a process where it doesn't, you know, you'd have to go further in there's nowhere that says that the government shall not. But that's why they have an electoral commission. So the electoral commission can be challenged for not doing their job. Like, how are you allowing the government to do this consultancy? But, you know, as I say, it's you know, there's a late, because there's certain time limits according to their law too. You got to bring the action between a certain time and just like a law. When a law comes out, there's no constitutional review in the parliament. Remember, a law comes out, and then when it's put into action, citizens have to complain it's unconstitutional. There's no constitutional filter for laws going through parliament.
Sure.
You know, so I just think it's important that I had to really go back. This is one of a brilliant preamble of our Constitution.
Yeah. All right, Brother Henry Schlingford, thank you very much. And thank you, Zed. Thank you, everyone, so far for you guys' contribution. It's 10 minutes past that hour of 7 o'clock. That is when we must take a break at this time. Let us play a track from our own very own Brother Nasiu entitled Revolution Soldier. Let's take a break. We'll come right back. Yes, folks, that is where it all happens each and every Sunday from 6 o'clock. We're having a very important conversation so far as Dominicans about Dominica. Pure conscious vibes flowing through, huh? We'll get to that live feed in just a while to take some of your comments there. Remember the number to call 245-2396 to get your voice into the program.
For the revolution, coming in like soldier. For the revolution. soldier for the revolution. Fight, fight.
To all the young people listening out there at this time, special good evening to you.
Don't stop the fighting. Fight, fight. Don't stumble down. Ra-da-da-da-da.
My brother Nasio. Thank you, my brother, for being a patriotic Dominican yourself. Doing your thing in song.
Bribes and lies. I'm not flashing at your jacket and a tie, yes. Well, I'm a rebel with a cause. Come to set the people free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Long time me a fight. Break down every fetter on a chain, yes. Rest not for the swift in the flight. Oh, but for I and I who conquer the fight, yes, soldier.
Positive words from a positive brother, rebel for a cause.
Oh, no.
And that is the cause for country.
Soldier, soldier, for the revolution.
Let's get back to our live panel here as we continue on our conversation. Gentlemen, so far, so good. An hour has already lapsed. We want to sort of get a little deeper now into the Electoral Commission of Dominica. Zed, Shillingford, Brother Thomas, we have not been hearing much from Duncan Stew. We have not been hearing much from these commissioners as to exactly what are their thoughts about how this thing is panning out. What are some of your initial thoughts as we dovetail into that conversation now?
Well, it's almost too late for the electoral reform, for the electoral commission in our situation.
You say
The
it's too
government
late?
getting ready to make laws. Can you hear me?
You say it's too late?
No, I'm not having an objective argument. Bear with me, I'm coming. I'm just telling you. Because we've lost so many opportunities where we were supposed to utilize the electoral commission, where we are now at the process where we are, where the government is getting ready to vote laws in, the electoral commission is almost useless to us, excepting calling them through the courts to act on our behalf. That's what has happened, because we gave up so many things. We allowed so many things to happen in a time that we have been talking, that we almost have, we have nothing we can really present in front of the court except in trying to sue the Electoral Commission to force it into action, because it is the statutory body. And so we should have done that before. We didn't do it. You understand? So where we are now, the government getting ready to make some laws, Lofty, and they have an 18-3 majority. And we have two options. We wait for them to make the laws, and then we try to go to court to address the laws, which is double trouble, or we act as citizens right now to ensure that the laws that are made are laws that reflect us, and then that is on us. That is on us. So where we are right now on this thing, it's not about the Electoral Commission anymore in all of the, excepting if you're talking about suing the Electoral the Commission to court, you know. There's no, it is about us. It is 11th hour. It's about us.
Henry, what are you proposing? Thanks, Ed.
There is nothing to propose vis-a-vis what has occurred. When I say to propose, I mean, these are things that, you know, there should be institutional, that everybody has kind of agreed with it. I mean, they've had meetings. This whole consultation, you know, should have gone on during, if at all, during Byron's time. It's really upside down, Lofty, and it comes into space at the same time where they're doing this airport and, you know, totally breaching the law. And then you have this new issue of the botanical gardens and the other issues, the visa issues with the passport. They're fundamental. Now, if it's directly to do with the quote unquote law reform, right? Remember, what was being asked for was a clean list and register and identification of voters, right? That was the main platform. That's why we wanted law reform. Now, you see, it really has reached a stage where you have to politically remove the party and remove the law, because it has reached a point where that it's gone past what I was going to suggest, which is that, well, I mean, it could still be that leave the law as it is. There's no need to change the law. Absolutely no need to change the law. You just do what the law now says to clean the list, and then give voter ID cards according to Section 21. Because there was no need for this expense, no need to get that done. Because, I mean, electoral reform may really be necessary, in a lot of ways, but in a bigger way. So at this point, I would, there's only two things. Rumfield said, when you have a problem, you make a bigger problem. Real reform would be, like change the constituencies. Like there's no need to have 21 constituencies. That's, that wasn't looked at. I could go in section 56 of the Constitution is the Electoral Commission and the Boundaries Commission, right?
Henry, a question we would like to clear out tonight. You being a legal mind.
Yeah.
The consultations that are about to commence next week, Tuesday or whenever, and sometime into the future, do you think that the government that are heading this consultative mission, that one, does the government and their people have the legal authority or the constitutional authority to do such things? One, and if so, what? If not, what can happen or what should happen in your own mind?
Okay, those are the two questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, firstly, that's why, again, I go back and, history and principle is that since it's happened all backwards, right? Like the consultation process is supposed to have gone on before, during Byron's time, right? This type of consultation, which I was never invited to, but I was invited to this one, for example. Right? So you see, at this point, Glafty, the Electoral Commission could have seen by whatever uproar or whatever they've seen that this system is no good, so they need another one. But they're not too good, so they hire some expert to consult them, right? But they didn't do that. A government did it, right? So what would have happened is the Electoral Commission would have done that. Electoral Commission, because they would be independently funded, or ask the government for the money, or ask the president for the money, however. The point is that it was supposed to be through them. Haven't come through them. They can suggest that now, right, to the speaker or to the government, okay? And the government can put it through to Parliament. But you see, it would have gone through the Electoral Commission is the one that has all says about elections. All those they are empowered to teach civics in school. They're not just to run elections. So that's what to keep in mind. So at this point, I have to get something to drink. Sorry.
Lofty.
Yes.
And I think Scrip's going to end up here too. That's why we say, and I really want you to get that as a civic leader, the way the conditions are, it is so hard to go and legally challenge because we let so many illegal things pass. You understand? We let so many pass that we nullify our approach to the court.
Yeah, but so, you see, Zed, too, I just want to, I'm sorry, because I just want us to, and your audience to understand that it's part of how the system works, right? It's just that they've got, really, when the government, okay, they own all the seats, but the point is to put a piece of legislation before Parliament, right? Now, this is the process where they're putting it toward the people. And the people have, I don't know, have they said, no, I don't want this legislation, right? Have they actively said, no, I don't want this legislation, right? Like, that's what it really is because although we know what's going on, at this point, in fact, they're saying, hey, I have this legislation, right? Now, at this point, there's no opposition. This is supposed to be debated in Parliament, but we have a dictator. We have a one-party Parliament, right? And so that these maneuvers have all been done, and you could critique me because I was one of the advocates that went for the independent voters because I thought that it was really, part of the Constitution, which gives every individual a right to run. You don't have to be part of a political party. Every one of the parts of the Constitution that anybody can run, right, for a thing. And without anybody running, there would have been no voting. Now, in a position like here, maybe it would have been better. You could say, look, there was no elections. And maybe that was, the point. I remember IP made that point and he pulled out later.
Yeah.
But you see,
Henry, I don't want to cut you off your line of reasoning now, but I still haven't gotten an answer in terms of at least the questions that I asked before.
Okay, the answer to your question is no. I was making the point is because in how the construct of the Constitution is, this is a government putting a piece of legislation. Now, as you know, they have all the votes in Parliament, right? So no, there's nothing you can do because it's the legislation. When it's passed, I'm talking about in law. Now, if there was a political uprising and the government respected the people and they might pull back the legislation, that's the other, it's a political thing. So the answer to the question is that no, there's nothing legal. The legal point was, could the government hire a consultant to give a consultancy on election laws? That was the route that had to be attacked.
So I took note. You said that you got an invitation to be part and parcel of that consultative process next week or whenever it is.
Yeah, I have it.
Number
here.
one, will you be attending that consultation?
No, I told you I disagree. I was thinking of attending and with a few other people and demonstrating, but it's beyond absurd. I mean, 7 p.m. I've been in this business for over 30 years. I've been to many consultations all over the world. I've never been to one at 7 p.m. I've been to dinners at 7 p.m. It's totally an illegal fraternity. He invites the legal fraternity at 7 p.m. in the State House. It's a trap. It's either a trap, right? Or I don't know. It's cartoonish. It's cartoonish. This should be in the middle of the day, 2:30, and like you can say, okay, I will take the afternoon off. You consult on this. Let's say it was rational. You consult on it from 2:30 to 5:36, or more. You have the evening. Maybe you stop at 7. If it was a serious, with lawyers to consult on a law like this, I mean, really? And now I understand it's not just, when I first got it, I thought it was just lawyers. It's other people too. So even that's an insult. You mean, so you have this big law and you're not just, to lawyers, if they should take it as an insult. So it's all an absurdity, quite frankly. I mean, I think some sort of demonstration of its absurdity would have been good. And somebody needs to talk about this because, even auspicious people in the community sending me this without comment. This is an appalling insult of any way you look at it.
It's the people's time, Lofty. It's the people's time.
Huh?
It's the people's time.
Yeah, well, it's the people's time, but people need leadership. I'm really appalled by the bourgeois middle class community, which is supposed to represent all of these. Graduates. What the society has created from the banana farmers to send people to school to get liberal arts education at some level, the civil servants, etc. To be allowing this. There's the civil servants that's allowing it. Civil servants are our front line. They're the ones that come up from the people that got education, and they're the ones that, but they're defending something else.
All right, thank you very much, my brother. It is 28 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock, folks. When it is around 2 minutes time, we're gonna take the comments and questions from the live feed. Alvin, any thoughts so far before we go to that live engagement?
Well, a very interesting conversation, I will say, but I have a couple of questions that I want to put to Brother Henry. And let me, before I do that, let me make a few comments in terms of Brother Zed's contribution. I think Zed, Brother Zed, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, if you've heard that before. I don't think it's one or the other. And you heard Brother Henry refer to the preamble of our Constitution. Now, my question, of course, to Brother Henry, is there a statute of limitation on the Constitution? Meaning that there are certain things you can challenge where you feel as an individual or group of persons that your constitutional right was affected. So that takes me back to the commission. So I don't quite agree, Brother Zed, in the sense that it is all over as far as the commission. The commission should be, and I would even say shall be, empowered to follow the Constitution, legal and electoral regulatory framework without any political and other interference in its operation. And that is why it is a creature of the Constitution. So if it appears, or if it can be established that that provision of the Constitution was affected based on, as we know, the Prime Minister saying no law, no Constitution, I believe we still have a right. We still have a right to challenge this matter in the courts. If we feel that the commission have not operated as they should, I think we can walk and chew gum. We can protest, as you say, it's the people. And I would hope, and I've always called for it, that there are some legal persons out there and other persons that can recognize that and show where the provision of the Constitution was affected. The fact that and put it this way, I heard Brother Henry speaks about the legislation, and I'm not sure if it is the government that is pursuing that consultation. That's another matter that has to be established. Is it the government pursuing this, or the Dominica Labour Party with their Dr. Darrow leading, as I said, the consultation? Currently, under the existing regulation, as Henry rightly pointed out, the commission can act. The commission can act as far as voters' ID. As a matter of fact, they had started the process a couple of years ago, and we know what happened when that process began. The commission currently can cleanse the registry, which is a major aspect of any reform or any electoral process, that electors list. The commission can do that right now under the current existing legislation. So if it comes across that the commission has abdicated their responsibility to act, whether to act prior to or during the time when Byron was appointed, I still believe that we as a people can challenge that matter in court. And in doing so, we can still at the same time take the action, which as Brother Zed is saying, that it's now we the people to take the action. But I think too often we allow several of those things to slide. Several of those matters. We talked about earlier the botanic garden, and Zed made reference to various legislations. Why is it that an injunction can be filed? We spoke about the airport a couple months ago. The fact that no EIA, we had Sister Edwards came on this program and several other programs, consultation, and pointed out where the Physical Planning Act was violated, Act number 5 of 2002. She pointed out the various sections, what needed to be done. Why then did we not file an injunction in the courts and seek redress? Grenada did it. in terms of projects that they had. They filed an injunction, the project is on hold. Why can't we do that? So I think we can walk and chew gum, but to say that the committee, it's all over now, so let's just wait, let government go ahead, let government present their legislation. Unless we have the stamina of the people of Niger in West Africa, then yes. But if we don't have that stamina, I'm saying we can walk and chew gum. So I still believe that if it appears that the Constitution has been violated, whereby the Commission, which has to operate on the basis of the Constitution, I think that matter can still be challenged.
Could I answer you, Alvin?
Yes, go right on, Zed. Go right on.
Go ahead, Zed. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me just answer you. You see, I'm not saying. Here's what I'm telling you. There's an ideal conversation and there's a reality conversation. So you've had an ideal conversation about what the Electoral Commission is supposed to do. But the reality is the Electoral Commission has done nothing that it is supposed to do. So now
it's not supposed, Zed is not supposed, it shall do, not supposed. It shall.
Yeah, but that's ideal. That's ideal because the membership of that constitution is not acting in that constitutionality. That's our reality. So the only thing we can do to that commission is to go to the courts to have that commission checked. But you see this process over there, and where the government going and pass its laws, the only way we can influence that is through civic action. The only way we can influence that right now is through civic action, and I'll tell you why. Because we have allowed too many things to happen illegally in the process to try to block this now.
And Zed, what I'm saying, we can do the two things. We can do civic action and we can challenge the matter in the court. We can walk and chew gum. We can.
But which matter?
Which
matter? That's what I want you to be clear on. Which matter? The only matter you can challenge in the court now is the Electoral Commission. That is Absolutely. The only matter you can. Yes.
Well, let's do that. Let's challenge your role and the failure to act.
With you, but that lawyer, you have to act on it. No, before it gets passed. No.
And
because it won't get passed if you act on it.
Zed, that's what I'm saying. Let's challenge. Yeah. No. The failure to act as a commission, let us challenge the matter in the courts. And that's why I'm saying we can walk and chew gum. Let's challenge the fact that the commission have failed to act. Let's challenge it now. Let's file an injunction, which, as you're saying, would I don't want to say maybe the hold or whatever, but we can do the two things. We can have civil action, civil protest, if that's what the term we want to use, and we can file an injunction in the court, showing whereby the commission has failed to act as a commission under the Constitution.
Yeah. No. And that civil action is not optional. It's not optional.
May I? Alvin, that's not, technically true. That's my point earlier. When it has reached the stage where they actually are, no matter where it comes from, no matter where this law came from. I mean, I was in meetings, where, or you'll see legislations are written by corporations sometimes. You understand? Once it's reached the stage that they have the legislation and they're presenting it as legislation, it's not a consultant anymore from Byron. They're treating, and that's another thing, that, they're just what Byron gives them, they're just, passing along, right? They're not even looking at it themselves as a government. They don't have any amendments.
So let me ask you, Henry, very quickly, let me ask you, how do you interpret for me Section 51 of the Constitution?
51?
In terms of the legislation that you say they have, how do you interpret Section 51 of the Constitution, which the heading, scrutiny of electoral legislation, a role of the commission? How do you interpret that?
Yeah.
So can't we go to court and ask the court, have the commission scrutinize those legislations that have been presented? Under oath, can you say to us that those legislation that the government intends to pass in Parliament have the commission under section 51 of the Constitution scrutinize those legislations.
Absolutely. I was not, I must say, I was not, this is now setting it out in clarity, because what I was asking is that I haven't heard from the Electoral Commission. They're supposed to review.
Exactly.
But I didn't know, I thought it was just normally would have to be a process knowing their role. But this is very true, sir.
And that process is stipulated.
This should be acted on tomorrow.
Yes, that process is clear in section 51 of the Constitution.
Acted on tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
This should be acted on tomorrow.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's in the Constitution.
That should be acted on tomorrow. Y'all should get attorneys, because this is one of the things that I was noting, was that they're holding these consultations, but I haven't heard an assessment of the legislation by the commission. Because remember, the commission who's supposed to have commissioned it in the first place, remember?
The commission is not active.
No, that's besides the point, Zed. They're supposed to be active. Section 51 for the benefit of our folks who are online.
I agree with you, Alvin. I agree with you, brother. Don't get me wrong. I'm just telling you, to stop that law is going to require civil action.
I agree. Let's walk and chew gum, and that's why I'm hoping.
No, but I did not know. I did not know that this was such a specific provision.
Yes. So
this
that
is a specific provision.
It's up immediately.
How come nobody noticed this? These people are working every day. This is extremely important, and this should be dealt with immediately. Absolutely. That's all I can say. I must say, this is live on your live, and this is exactly what I thought this is here.
So for the benefit of our folks who are online.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
Let me tell you why this is very important. I was talking about regular legislation, like I said, even corporations have said. However, this is exactly the point. This goes back to why that they should have, in fact, commissioned whatever was going to happen in the first place. But this puts it in clear black and white. Every proposed bill and every proposed regulation or other instrument having the force of law relating to the registration of electors or for the purpose of electing representatives of or to the election of representatives and senators shall be referred to the Electoral Commission and the Chief Electoral Officer at such time, and shall give them sufficient opportunity to make comments thereon before the bill is introduced to the House, as the case may be, for the regulation or other instrument is made.
And the word there is shall. It's not shall want to, you shall. So we need the commission.
Now remember, they should have been put on the thing for the whole process.
Absolutely.
Now you're putting them on this, but a good lawyer would be able to connect. They're having not done it in the first place through this action.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I mean, I'm telling you, it's not like, I mean, I'm saying I can theoretically do it, but to get the papers and so on, I mean, I'm not at that level in my, my office, and I don't want to be. I'm trying to wind down. So you really need to y'all need to get some money up and get an attorney. I could certainly, assist, but this is an important issue given everything that y'all have said. I mean, what y'all are all about, because this is exactly gets to the point.
Yeah.
And I'm saying it gets me, and why I am, again, nodding to the Constitution, because I was seeing this in principle, but this lays out the whole fact. Like, there's no other law, but if it has to do with electing representatives, right, or so on, then it must, not only must they review it, but they must write comments.
Absolutely. So it's
and they must say why. So if they agree with it, they must say why. And if they don't, they must say why they don't. It shall give them sufficient opportunity to make comments thereon before the bill is introduced to the House. So that, you know, but as I say, that would have been the normal circumstance if they had done as was supposed to be, which would have been hired the consultant. So yes, that's a revelation to me. Thank you for the show, Loftus, for doing this, and thank you, Mr. Thomas.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
man.
So as I made Lofty, if I may say, it takes us back to what Zed opening comments, in that we have to be familiar with our Constitution. We have to know, and there is no limitation on your Constitution to say, well, or it happened 6 months ago, so time has passed on it. No. Anytime as a citizen of Dominica, individual as a group of persons, you feel your constitutional right has been taken away from you, you can go to the courts. You can go to the courts and say, hey, my right under the Constitution has been abrogated. And you can request a constitutional or judicial review. So
that's different. That's what the judicial review, you have to go within a certain time. Constitution are different. Judicial review is saying a person didn't do their job. What's important about this, and that's what I was talking about, running the elections, etc.
right.
But what about this is that this is a direct section.
Direct constitutional violation.
That's a direct constitutional violation. This is in the Constitution. This is not an administrative element that is a result of a, you know, of a place in the Constitution. So this is very important.
So Zed, herein lies now all the actions that we are talking about.
Yeah.
I will report what can you go. So that's one of the actions. Tomorrow morning, tomorrow Monday, can we begin to galvanize, if it's financial resources required, if it's an attorney or more than 1 or 2, 3 attorneys, to review this matter and to say, well, hey, we're going to challenge this matter. That's where the action comes in now.
Well, imagine that, brother. I'll tell you something. About 5 months ago, right, we had a conversation on Q in general. I called in and I talked about the resistance having a regular fundraising activity, right, to deal with its legal issues. That is exactly the kind of thing that it is, you know. We always do the thing when we need it reactionary. That's been our culture, again, because we don't have a philosophy as a nation. But that is exactly what I was talking about. And I want to extend the conversation a little bit, Alvin. Here we are in a country, right? Maybe density-wise, maybe the most graduates we have had is lawyers. More than agriculturists, more than doctors, more than lawyers, right? But Dominica, for some reason, its lawyers do not understand the civic component of law. You know, like how you can be a lawyer and not be bothered by injustice. And Dominican lawyers seem unbothered by injustice. And I'm not making a blanket statement. I'm just making, you know, a statement to point out the law. Like all other places, man, you always see the legal fraternity being involved in the civic process. And I'm not talking about a lawyer coming and work for free and getting broke, like you know, because he's doing so much. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the part of the responsibility of going to law school is to come back in that fraternity and be active in the community in teaching people their rights and their privileges. And that is absent in Dominica in a very large measure. So for instance, if we had that kind of active thing, these lawyers would already be talking to the people about the options that they have in the process. So they wouldn't have to hear it after the fact. They would already be in tune to the things that they can do. So the legal fraternity in Dominica, by of itself, look at that, Alvin. We do not even have a Freedom of Information Act, and the press members and the law fraternity cannot come together and force a free information free access to information act in Dominica. The thing that is most critical to the success of their industry, not even nationally, though, their work to be able to have evidence to bring to court through freedom of press. So I want to call upon that legal fraternity That you know, it's not a question of trying to ask you to do things cheaper. Beyond your work, there's a civic component to your process as a lawyer. And I don't think that is being done in Dominica in a real large measure by this fraternity.
Yeah. All right, Zed, thank you very much, my brother, for your salient point here. Thank Brother Henry as well. And, you know, the conversation that we have in here. At 7:30, we're supposed to take a break to go to that live feed. So we must take that break now and kind of, you know, have the comments and questions from our viewing audience, because they too, they're part and parcel of the conversation before we wind down here. But just before I go there, though, Zed, the last point that you made in terms of lawyers' help in Dominica along the way, which is very much lacking in Dominica. I took note of one of the conversations that we had with this brother right here on this platform, Brother Rolston from Antigua and Barbuda, just talking about how they went about, you know, getting their electoral matters up and running. And this brother basically, okay, before I go to this brother, let me see if we can engage a caller here. Caller, yes, good evening, you're right on.
Yes, caller. Yes. That's Pato man from Gwenby, man.
Yes, Pato. Yes, Pato.
Yes, let me tell you, I'm not giving you a number there, so I have a problem at my boy, so I don't know.
All right, Pato, I have your number. I will call you back. Sorry, you were live on air a while ago, so I'll call you back. All right, that is personal. All right, Pato, take it easy. One love. Yes, I was saying, gentlemen, that this brother Rolston made the fundamental point in that he said, in Antigua and Barbuda, Zed, Mr. Shillingford, they have lawyers working with them pro bono, giving their service for free to ensure that things go right in Antigua and Barbuda. And that is why, in large measure, they are where we are today. And so, you know, the lawyers in Dominica, I must say, they have dropped the ball in terms of not being able to help us through the struggle because they are the officers of the court. And so we may be thinking of things, but to get the paperwork done, to get everything regularized, to get everything, you know, in a file, in a document presented before the court, then, you know, that is where we as citizens now need the help. And some of the lawyers, I can tell you, they are not prepared to go down that road. So we have a double issue, double situation in our hand.
Well, you have one of them here, I guess.
Give thanks.
Marcelin Edwards on the live feed here is saying, speak Zed, they don't care about justice and our society in shambles. All they care about is their money, greedy, corrupt lawyers. And I see this with no reservations. That is Marcelin speaking about lawyers in Dominica. I know we have a lawyer on board. I hope that lawyer don't take much objection to that. Immersia Vigil writes, no, they are not. And they just don't care. Ezra Winston writes here, most Dominicans lawyers have been bought. Another person by the name of Octobers says here, there is money to be made in compensation cases against the state, but they find it easier to side with the oppressor. Let me see if we can get, Alvin, can you point out some more information here? Jeffrey Brisbane is saying here, he's locked in from Miami, and great advice from the lawyer here, Mr. Shillingford, so far. Philson George Sr. says, get carried out there. Get carried out of there. Dory Drago is asking that all-important question here, or is making that statement here. My suggestion is that Mr. Shillingford, can point us to a legal firm in Dominica willing to take up the fight. Ferdinand Lawrence says, how are we going to get anything through the court system when it is controlled by Roosevelt Skerrit? Someone is talking. Hold on a while, Alvin. Someone is talking about that is where they think an organization like Needcliff, who have been said in the public space to have been collecting monies for legal challenges like that. That is where Needcliff now, we should at least turn to Needcliff and ask them what's up with that Needcliff organization, if just in case we need some funds to push legal matter through. Yes, Alvin.
Yeah, well, you see the comment you took before that last one on Needcliff, that is where again we have to debunk that. We have to still have faith in the judicial system.
Yes.
Our system of democracy is based on an executive a legislature and a judiciary. We can't now do like scare it and throw the baby and the bathwater out and say to hell with the executive is bad, the legislature is bad, the judiciary. We have to have faith in the judicial system.
And we have to take some action.
Suggest that they are in cabal, I think we have to debunk that, because we saw what happened when in 2019 petitions were filed before the court. Yes, I agree, Glasgow threw it out. Glasgow did not give the folks a chance even to be heard. He said, based on what's before me, you guys don't have a case. He threw it out. So as a result, we couldn't go to the Court of Appeal because the Court of Appeal had nothing to review. There was no case. But guess what? The attorney representing the folks, the folks filed a petition, went to the CCJ and said, hey guys, we need to be heard. I mean, are we talking about the war of the jungle now? Should we each take our guns and go at each other? And the CCJ recognized that the folks' constitutional rights were affected. And the CCJ deliberated, looked at the matter, and came out with a judgment or some conclusion. And we all know what was written in that July document. And so to say, therefore, that we should forego going through the judicial system is a big mistake. We must present to the judicial system, hold your feet to the fire, and get something out of it. And that is part of the education we ourselves on Civic Vibes has to do. We can't take the position, well, everything is bad, so now it's war of the jungle. We have to walk and chew gum at the same time. Continue the activism that is required on the ground, but access the judicial system when there is need to do that.
Especially where there is some precedence in the Caribbean circuit sense of the court, you know, especially when there is that kind of precedence. So even in that issue where urgency is even more urgent, our application can also be highlighted to the higher institutional court. You understand? We can bring awareness to our condition. But again, civic action is critical. The court responds to people in the streets. Don't let nobody fool you. The court responds to people in the streets.
Well, you know, technically they're not supposed to.
But that's what. But that's the reality. It's human beings.
Remember, as Mr. Thomas says, Alvin says that we, you know, even, you know, me especially, given the state of the game, you have to use their cards against them.
Yeah.
And so, because we don't have that power that you're alluding to, and what we more have is the power within the law. And that's where we have it, because we don't have, it seems, the real numbers and the force. So I mean, I really believe that that's true of lawyers throughout. I think that they have lost the issue, and you know, and a lot of reasons that I'm disappointed in the profession, because they forgot about that fundamental issue of, you know, what drove some of us to law. So I couldn't disagree with you. I also know that having gone through the system, that the system is not set up for Black people. It's set up for landowners, and you know, it really is. It's set up for governments, and the whole system is rallied against you know, Black people. And I say that. And remember, these constitutions are the same things in St. Lucia. They're rubber stamp, right? They're the same things. And the Caribbean has never, you know, amended their constitutions. No Caribbean country. We went through a constitutional review. Our common law is common law in England. We haven't created, we don't have a law review. You know, we're not developing any institutions. We're just fetting and so on. And, you know, Rastafari come with a concerted Caribbean view of the international way of thinking. And I think that's very important for us to have in the Caribbean. And, you know, as I say in Dominica, the idea of feeling rooted in place and feeling positive about that is very important. And that's caused by leadership. Now, as one of your guests wrote, I mean, as I was endeavored, I will do that. I mean, immediately I'm thinking of two people that I'll call in the morning and propose, like, what about this? And what do y'all think? So I will do that, but it's still necessary to for advocates like, in this realm to get the parties together, etc. So I think that's a very important part, given everything that you all have done about this to reach this stage. This is something that really, and it actually proves my point, and I was very happy for that, because electoral bills are different. It's different. It's not like any other legislation. You know what I mean? Because it transcends party politics, and so this is very important.
Yeah. I say, get your contact and let's make this happen. We gonna work on the other end of it. Try to
okay.
Get the contact.
All right, guys, we are looking at the finish line, as it were. The finish line is in sight now. So as we go around the table now to ask you guys for your closing or winding up comments, what do you want to share with the viewing and listening public?
Well, I guess since I was just last on, maybe somebody should go for it.
You know, Lofty, what are we doing here today is like what we're supposed to have been doing a long time ago. And we get caught up in the reactionary talk. It moves from radio station to, the portal. And people don't have time, because you see, struggle requires time. And so I understand they don't plan. People come to the radio station unprepared. They have not time to. You have to have some people who make this struggle their responsibility for the struggle to execute and succeed. And that has been missing in Dominica. Where the politicians are involved, it has been on political interest. They're trying, but it's only so much they can do. Because at the end of the day, they're not really people of struggle, they are politicians. You have to have people of struggle making an effort to be concerned about the people's struggle, and that is absent. The lawyers are missing. These other portals are missing. The pastoralists are missing. The religious people are missing. So there's some fundamental things that are missing in terms of what is necessary for our struggle in Dominica right now. Fundamental pieces. So, which makes it even more difficult and which makes it even more critical than when we meet to talk, we have to talk from historical and solution. You see how because we went back historically, you see what it did to us tonight? We proved why when you take history in context, you can arrive at solutions to the future. That's what we just proved there, We just take the whole theory and just say, this is it. So I want, as we move forward, to kind of stay within these contexts as we speak, and less of that, because you have to speak is the mannerism of speech that has to change for the problem to change. So right now we're talking a different conversation because we are applying historical perspective to our solutions moving forward. And I hope we can stay on that as we move forward. But to the citizens of the country, I want to call upon them on Tuesday evening. Go by that place. Don't wait. Go by that place. The way Dominica is, even if you're trying to do things legally, Dominica is a planet. Go by that place. Make your placards. Represent. Go at the botanical gardens when you have to. Represent. And the botanical issue is an issue we can solve. Let us not wait. Let us give no 90 days, no nothing. We can solve that issue. There's legal precedence there to solve that issue. So both these issues that are confronting us, what we understand tonight is we have options to stop them, both from a civic perspective and a legal perspective. Let us take this thing to the next level, family. God bless.
God bless you as well, Brother Zed. Thank you very much indeed. Brother Shillingford, your final parting comments, sir?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me. And thank you for, I learned, on your program today. And I think that speaks to the tradition of tenacity to continue until the end and you find something. So I commend that for this program because I really thought that there was no thing. So I say that. On the overarching level, I think it's extremely important hearing from the young girl how, as one of the things that I may suggest that you do from your organization is really encourage civics to be taught in schools, like basic civics, what are elections, and in secondary school, or lectured on it, not necessarily taught as a subject, but so that they're exposed to that. So that's something else I got from being here tonight. And this idea that the Constitution is about the preamble because it happens to be a very important part of what I'm arguing about about why ganja should be legal, because I'm arguing that a parliament cannot make laws on natural things. So, but that's something else. The
That's
point is
something
that,
else.
yeah,
Yes.
no, because but it's based on the preamble.
Mhm.
You see, it's one thing to have right to life, but what does life mean, right? It means family. It means things. So that's what I'm saying. There's deeper things, and that's what I want to get over in the program is that these things go beyond they're in the Constitution, but they're technically not because you have to interpret the Constitution through those things. Because otherwise it's words. That's why you go to court to interpret them. So I'd like to leave your audience with that and thank you for this process.
Just before you leave us, Henry, there is a, how I should say it, a moral law, well, a moral law, yes, that is brewing in the between the United States now and Jamaica, whereby a gay couple living in Jamaica wants to get married, and a priest or pastor, whoever that religious person is refusing to marry them in Jamaica. And the Jamaicans are basically standing up and saying their law is this and their law is that. And America is basically, trying to put their long arm on basically saying that it is their right. So maybe I'm just thinking, maybe on another program, you've been a legal mind. And what is happening out there, it will come down, it will trickle down to Dominica. So as a legal mind, Henry, maybe you might want to entertain a conversation like that as to the rights of human being where that is concerned and the law that America points to. So I don't know if you'd be willing to be part and parcel of a conversation.
It'd be difficult for me to have a conversation. The morality of that is beyond me.
It's
But I
beyond
thought
you.
you were talking about the wholeness issue, and because I think that is very interesting legal issue. It was about the ambassador. The ambassador was a gay married man to
No,
another
no, no,
man.
no, 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 no.
Because that issue about the pastor is totally legal for him to say no. How did the United States went even further? It was you have to recognize the marriage so that the guy's male wife could have the same rights as a normal wife in terms of diplomatic privileges, which was normal because it was a wife is a legal reality, right? But since that is not a legal reality in Jamaica, they refused it. So even on that particular legal point, United States, like that was really amazing. So no, but I wouldn't want to discuss the issue generally. It's ridiculous. I agree with the African guys.
All right, cool. No problem with that. I was just thinking out loud. You being a legal
No,
mind
I'd
because
be too controversial.
sure, it is already knocking on our doorsteps in Dominica.
Yeah, I'd be too controversial. I think I couldn't deal with it. Sorry.
All right, Henry, thank you very much. Zed, thank you very much. As we had a very interesting conversation here tonight. Alvin, that leaves you and I to sort of wrap up things as it were.
Yeah, well, Lofty, again, let me also thank Brother Zed, as usual, very engaging, I must say. It's always, when you have that brother on the panel, you got to be thinking, you got to be on your game. And of course, my brother, Henry Shillingford, no-nonsense guy, says it as it is. And I think that is what we are lacking in Dominica, unfortunately. We don't have as many people who not just talk the talk, but walk the talk. And like Brother said, I hope Tuesday so-called consultation, if that word is the word for it, that Dominicans will start from there. Put all the talk now to action. I'm not sure what is the rationale for having the consultation at 7 in the evening as against in the morning, a consultation of that nature, or in the afternoon. I don't know. 7 in the evening. And guess what? Guess what? The president is supposed to be a neutral man for every Dominicans, all Dominicans, okay? No sides, no biases. And the Dominica Labour Party, the Skerritt-led administration, with, as I said, the Dr. Daru, an active Labour Party card-holding supporter, active in the party, is undertaking a consultation in the president's residence. There's nowhere else in Dominica they could find for that consultation. Nowhere else, no neutral ground to say, well, let's find a neutral ground. Let's go to the Goodwill Parish Hall, or let's go to wherever. In the president's house, they're having the consultation. And the president should know what the role of the commission is in all of that. So I would hope, as Brother Zed said, and we've said it on the program, I read some of those feeds on the program, walk the talk now. Get out there on Tuesday evening. No excuses. Well, it's night, it's late, it's what. Get out there. Get out there with your placards. Get out there in numbers and express your dissatisfaction and your displeasure with the process and what's going on. Get out there. Get a microphone. Shout out. Say what you have to say. We do not support this project. Our electoral reform has been hijacked. Get out there and shout it out and act it out. That is what I'm hoping should happen. And I would hope that can be the start of the action that Brother is talking about. And again, thanks to all our folks on the feed, the live feed, that have been sending in their comments. We know, guys, you come religiously every Sunday, and our role there is not just to give information, it's not just to share knowledge, but it's be able to take action after we have provided information. So I'm very thankful to Brother Henry, and he's going to follow up ASAP. I'm sure he's going to start tonight, tomorrow morning, follow up on what action that can be taken, even where we are at this point.
Morning star, turn them into gladness. Lord, I'm in. Devil them did come. They come to trample me down. But through them try and them fail, them realize the last year I prevail.
All right, Dominica, that is it.
Only love.
Thank you very much for your eyes and ears. It's already 1:15.
And it's only
Thank you for 2 hours well spent. To invited guests, Brother Zed Lloyd and Brother Henry Shillingford, that is. For you guys' invaluable contribution tonight to tonight's Civic Vibes program, we thank you very much indeed. What would the program be without you guys out there? So to the number of folks out there as well listening and watching, thank you very, very much indeed. Until that time, from the Civic Vibes team, we're bidding you good night.
Only Jah is my defense. Tell your children, there is only Jah love, one defense. Then it's only Jah love, I and your defense. Tell your children, there is only Jah love, one defense. Then it's only Jah love, I and I defense. Jah love, oh, I'm meant to say Jah love, only Jah is my defense. Enemies come, enemies run, I and I prevail, then realize till I see I prevail. cha cha.